Well, good evening and welcome to the February 26, 2015 meeting of the Salem Area Mass Transit Board of Directors. Tonight we're going to have a public hearing on the implementation of our Moving Forward Plan, Phase 1. People wishing to speak on something will have a 3-minute limit. After the hearing, we'll deliberate and consider authorizing the plan. We'll then have public comment and anything else. And there again, people that wish to speak will have a 3-minute limit. We'll then approve the consent calendar, which contains only minutes from the January board meeting and authorization to enter into a contract for cherry lift vehicles. We have 5 action items tonight. First, we'll receive the Citizens Advisory Committee, our Citizens Advisory Committee report. Annual report, and we'll seek input for the Phase 2 of the Moving Forward Service Plan as proposed. We'll adopt the action plan for Phase 2 of the South Salem Transit Center. It's a very busy night tonight. Fourth item, we'll approve the contract for the bus shelters and stop amenities, the purchase for those, and approval of the contract awarding the engineering and design for the Keizer Transit Center signalization and intersection project. We have no information items tonight, and we'll conclude with various reports. So with that, we'll open the meeting up, and Linda will note the attendance, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Steve Evans will lead the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Okay, announcements and changes to the agenda.
It's, you have one change to the agenda. We have a staff introduction. I'd ask Sue Ann Coffin, our contractor transportation manager, please come forward.
President Thompson and directors, I'm really pleased to introduce to you our new mobility coordinator, Melissa Kidd. And I think as she introduces herself and you're able to ask questions, you will see how delightful and what an asset she is.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Melissa Kidd, as Sue Ann just said, and I am a former middle school teacher, but I've been super excited to be here at Salem-Keizer Transit for the last month. My dad works for Salem-Keizer Transit, actually, as a journeyman mechanic, so it's kind of like a family thing we have going on here. It's really lovely.
Okay, do you have some questions for Melissa? I know Kate does.
So what subject?
I taught English language arts to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders for 8 years.
And that explains why you're not there anymore. My wife is a middle school principal.
Oh,
so
wow.
I
How
totally
exciting.
understand what you went through. Anyway, also, Kate has a question for you.
Go ahead. Go ahead and do yours. No. Oh, okay.
Oh, well, I like to always ask the question, why you wanted to work for Salem-Keizer Transit, but obviously since your dad worked here, that's a big part of it. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
That's a really great question. Why I want to work for Salem-Keizer Transit. I wouldn't have left teaching for just any job. I really think it's important to make a positive difference every day, and I was doing that. I was very confident in doing that every day with my students. But I feel like here at Salem-Keizer Transit, I can do the exact same thing, but with a broader range of population. I can really make a positive impact with an entire community, students and adults and people who are seniors and people living with disabilities. So I'm really excited about the possibility of making that positive impact with the entire community.
Anyone else have a question? John does, okay.
Glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
As a disabled person myself, I know that there are great opportunities in our community for people with disabilities to take better advantage of the transit services that we offer now and hope to offer in the future. And you have a great opportunity to play a big role in making that come true.
Awesome. I'm very excited about that. Enthusiastic.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's now time for our public hearing. And the public hearing is on the moving forward plan that will be implemented September 8th, 2015. And to start with, we'll have staff make a report.
Yeah, thank you. We'll ask the planning staff to come forward. We'll present the report from moving forward that we've all been pretty familiar with for the last year plus, but this is the public hearing opportunity.
President Thompson and members of the board, I am excited to speak with you this evening about the Moving Forward project. This project has represented a tremendous endeavor in planning, and it is a great attempt to improve the service in our area and to maximize our effectiveness. I'm joined this evening by the entire planning department. Their contributions and hard work have provided the depth of analysis, the detail of work, and the thoroughness that you see in the packet before you. They will also help answer detailed and specific questions that you might have tonight, hopefully so that you don't have to settle for my answer. I brought the experts. Chris French is our planning analyst. Chris is focused on route design, alignments, frequencies, and schedules. Chris can answer any questions that you have about corridors, routes, travel patterns, etc. Ted Stonecliffe is sitting in the middle, is our long-range planning analyst. For this project, Ted has investigated stop placement and begun detailed work outlining the improvement needs for individual stops. Ted is also working on our Title VI analysis, and he will be able to answer both stop level and Title VI analysis type questions that you might have. Matt Bergeron, at the end here, is our planning technician. Matt has developed all of the maps and the visuals that you see in the packet before you. He's also responsible for a great deal of the narrative and text which describes the service proposal. Matt has summarized, collected, and collated public outreach and should be able to answer any questions that you might have about the community feedback that we have received. My personal thanks goes out to this team. They have and continue to do a fantastic job. So what is Moving Forward? Moving Forward is a comprehensive service change consisting of two distinct phases. Phase 1 maximizes the quality of service within existing resource constraints. Phase 1 increases popular route frequency. It provides more consistent service throughout the day, and it provides more efficient operation. Phase 2 expands that service into evenings and weekends, but requires additional revenue. Phase 2 completes the Moving Forward project, providing our community with the transit service that it deserves. This high-level timeline serves as an overview of the steps that we have taken in the Moving Forward project, and it also acts as a bit of a guide for our conversation this evening. Our first step in the Moving Forward project was the completion of the Comprehensive Service Analysis, or CSA. The CSA, as you know, was developed for us by internationally recognized transit consultants Jarrett Walker and Associates. The work started in early 2014. The outcome for this project was a comprehensive review of our current transit system and a thorough outline of service modification recommendations, which would improve our transit service and better meet the unmet needs of transportation in our community. The consultant review included a very well-attended community leader stakeholder meeting. We had board retreats, staff interviews, and a complete ride check. The ride check involved the consultant group riding and analyzing every trip of every route in our existing service. The results of the CSA provided the seed for the Moving Forward project. The CSA recommendations were adopted into the first maps of the Moving Forward project. Through the summer, staff engaged in an extensive and thorough public outreach period. Outreach stretched across and throughout the community. Over 400 written responses were received. We reached thousands of customers and citizens through one-on-one engagement. We held open houses presented at neighborhood association meetings, and even placed signs along the corridors and roads where we knew that major transit changes would be occurring. Many events were well attended. We tried new locations, new times, and new ways of reaching out into the community. Materials, both in print and electronic format, helped extend the reach of our outreach events to those in the community that couldn't make one of our meetings, who couldn't attend one of our events, or who wished to spend more time considering the changes in the proposal. A lot of the feedback that we received was both thorough and constructive. Community feedback directly affected the final version of the service proposal. Indeed, over 23 service changes have occurred due to feedback. Our riders provided concern over the loss of service to Battle Creek Commons. We were able to modify a route to meet this demand. We received requests for service to Walker Road. We were able to extend a route. Community members raised concern over service to the South Salem Senior Center and to the Kroc Center. Both of these items were addressed in the most recent proposal. The board provided feedback on Kingwood West, Capitol Manor, staff on the narrowness of Reed Road, and desire for deviation to Del Webb. The maps have been updated. All of those and other changes occurred because of the outreach process. Those changes were reflected in the second public comment period, which just recently occurred. We returned to the community with updated maps, changes to the service, and additional details. We provided more open houses and even canvassed neighborhoods, visiting houses around areas where proposed stops would be located. Most of the feedback that we have received has been positive. We've received praise for modification to Route 6, for helping with routes to the South Salem Senior Center. We received favorable feedback regarding the increased frequency on popular routes and for many of the other changes that we've had. There are, however, still some concerns that have been raised, regarding the continued lack of service on weekends and evenings, a lack of service in West Salem, and individual route timing issues. We've been able to address a great many of the timing issues in the packet that's been proposed today with modifications through this outreach process. We were also able to assuage many of the West Salem residents' concerns after we described both service to the high school and the West Salem flexible transit pilot project. A complete list of the public comments can be found in your packet and in the supplement. Again, we had decent attendance at some of our locations, and we made sure to circle back to return to the areas where we had received a particularly high amount of public feedback. Finally, very thorough documentation was available both electronically and in print. The materials included a draft version of the packet that you have seen, which provided the community with a thorough narrative, draft schedules, updated maps, and other detailed information on every route throughout the proposal. So how far have we come since the proposed service changes this last summer? What changes has the community helped to make? If you go back and forth between these two slides, you can see that major changes have occurred across the map. We've listened and modified the plan to include service to the Kroc Center, along Lansing and Hawthorne, to the South Salem Senior Center, Reese Hill Loop, etc. We've listened to operators and pulled Route 9 closer to Del Webb and removed service from Reed Road. Through this process, the proposal has changed from a consultant recommendation to a community-sourced service design. The proposal includes a very similar number of revenue hours to today's service, but provides additional miles. Generally, this means that buses will be moving for a larger and more industry standard amount of every revenue hour. This represents a great improvement to efficiency. The changes in our proposal are due in large part to the recently adopted board policy. Specifically, we currently allocate about 65% of our revenue hours towards ridership-focused routes and 35% of our revenue hours to coverage-focused routes. Ridership-focused means routes which are expected to generate the most boardings. These are typically more popular routes on higher frequency corridors. Frequency, as you might recall, is a measure of how many times per hour a bus passes an individual stop. Coverage service, on the other hand, provides very important service deeper into the neighborhoods. These routes are typically less frequent and often operate on neighborhood streets. Coverage service typically provides fewer boardings. The proposed system more closely aligns with board policy. In the proposal, 75% of service will be allocated to ridership-focused routes, 25% to coverage-focused routes. Another key element of the proposed service includes increased frequency on busy routes. Frequency, again, meaning how often a bus passes a particular stop, is a particularly effective driver for high ridership. Increased frequency makes trip planning easier for customers. A missed bus on a higher frequency route does not have a profound impact on travel plans. With 15-minute frequency, for instance, a customer may participate in more spontaneous travel. It's okay if you miss your bus, another one's going to be coming by in 15 minutes. Increasing the usefulness of a route through frequency increases the likelihood of high ridership. Our current service is designed for peaks and valleys of service, of ridership. Actual ridership, however, as evidenced through the CSA and through our performance reports, indicates that our ridership is more consistent throughout the day. The proposed service operates at the same frequency at 8 a.m. as it does at 1 p.m., making our service more reliable. The proposed service has more cross-town routes. This reduces the need to transfer to a new bus when you're on a popular corridor, such as River Road and Commercial Street. And we've reduced the delay at the transit center. Less delay means faster trips and more effective use of buses. Finally, we've used fewer one-way loops throughout our system. One-way loops provide the appearance of good and useful service on a map, but in actuality they provide terribly slow and often ineffective transportation for our users. The map up here should look familiar. It shows our current service. However, you can notice that the colors have been changed from what you may have seen in the past. High-frequency routes are shown in red, and I admit it's a little hard to see on the projector. High-frequency routes are shown in red. That means routes that have 15-minute frequency. Blue routes indicate 30-minute frequency, and green indicate hourly service. In our current system, we actually have some routes with 120-minute frequency. That means that if a passenger misses their bus, they have to wait 2 hours for the next vehicle to drive by. In the simplest of terms, the moving forward proposal provides more red lines for our map. We've consolidated service to provide a greater focus on ridership while still leaving a critical component of coverage service to reach deep into the neighborhoods. This proposal will not, however, benefit all residents. Some may find that they have to walk farther to transit service. Hopefully, that transit service is more useful now. Others may find that service is simply reduced, or in some cases even removed. Unfortunately, we cannot provide high-frequency service on every road. But this proposal does help provide better service to more people in our community. Put a different way, the Moving Forward proposal provides the most useful service, provides the most useful transit service to areas where it will be used the most. Here, we have highlighted new stops throughout the community. It's a good picture of where we're providing service and what new areas we'll be able to cover with the Moving Forward project. I've asked Matt to step up and provide some detailed analysis of the proposed routes. He's going to walk through each of the proposed routes and spend a few moments talking about their path, their frequency, and their purpose. Matt?
Thanks, Jared. As Jared just said, I'm about to walk through all 14 of the new routes. My plan was to go through them and then answer any specific questions you have to have about the routes. So I'm going to start with Route 1. So Route 1 is, you can think of it as a combination of the current Route 19, the current Route 1, and the portion of Route 21 along Commercial. So it starts in the Keizer Transit Center, goes around Keizer Station, comes down Lock Haven and River Road to downtown, stops for 3 minutes, and then continues on down Commercial all the way to Wallen Drive, which is just a quarter mile south of the South Salem Senior Center, and then works its way back. So this is kind of like a new backbone of our system. It offers 15-minute service all the way from Keizer to South Salem with a very small delay in the transit center. compared to today where you have to make a time connection between the 19 and the 1, and that would take about 10 or 15 minutes depending on when the bus gets there. Let's see here. Route 2 is a combination of the current 17 and small portions of the current 2 and 13, and it also provides service all the way up to Shemeketa. So this is offering frequent 15-minute service between downtown and Shemeketa Community College. It is, if you notice, it's coming in the back of Shemeketa Community College, which avoids the traffic on Lancaster. Also, this is one of the routes if you currently use the service on D Street east of 17th and west of Lancaster. This is one of the routes where most stops are within a half-mile walk or a 10-minute walk for an able-bodied person. Route 3 is almost identical to today. It offers 30-minute service between downtown, up Portland Road, and then down Lancaster to Shemeketa Community College. And I'll show you in a second Route 13, which also takes a similar path up Summer and Capitol and Portland Road, and then turns onto Lana to Silverton. And in that corridor, you actually have effective 15-minute service. And then combined, once they get to Shemeketa, you could get on either the 3 or the 13 every 15 minutes to get downtown. So it's essentially between the two routes, we have another 15-minute corridor connecting Shemeketa Community College with the Downtown Transit Center. Routes 4 and 4A. So Route 4 is pretty much identical to the current Route 16, if you're familiar with it. The only difference is instead of running every half an hour, it's running every hour. And what we're doing with the other bus is the A route, which comes on the same corridor on State Street, but then it takes a right on Lancaster and serves the Marion County Correctional Facility. And we have a few of these main trunk lines and then A routes. And for example, with these routes, they're both 60-minute service. So in parts of them, in the loop and going down Lancaster, you can think of them as the green routes, the 60-minute routes. But the idea is to give good frequent service, as frequent as possible, to State Street, to the part of State Street that has a lot of ridership, but then also still give coverage to the neighborhoods. So this is our way of doing it, so that most people that are going anywhere along State Street know they can get service from either of the routes every 30 minutes. But then people in the, going down to the jail know that it's every 60. And I'll also show you in a minute, Route 7 is also trying to, it also takes the Pennsylvania Loop to try to restore some of that service so they actually have effective 30-minute service, just like today. Make sure I didn't miss anything. The new routes 5 and 5A, you can think of it as a combination of the current Route 12, Route 25, and Route 5. So no longer do you need to transfer from the Edgewater corridor at Glen Creek to get downtown. You have a direct connection to downtown, and it actually continues on all the way past Lancaster Mall, up to Royalty Drive and around Sunnyview. So this route is another one of our crosstown corridors, offering 15-minute service. Again, like the 4 and 4A, this is actually two 30-minute routes offset by 15 minutes. So for 90% of the corridor, it's 15-minute service. There's 3 exceptions. The first is that Route 5 goes into Kingwood West, and Route 5A goes into Capitol Manor. The second exception is that Route 5 travels up Girth Street in West Salem, and Route 5A travels up Patterson. And the third exception is on the eastern end of the route. Route 5 takes a one-way loop on Market, Lancaster, and Sunnyview, and 5A comes up Green Tree and Walker. And that's trying to serve some of the people on Walker, and also there's a new elementary school that opened up in 2012, Cesar Chavez. We're trying to serve with that as well. Oh, I should also mention while we're here, the reason that we're going through Glen Creek Transit Center, which almost isn't a transit center anymore because of the consolidation of the lines, is to offer an anchor point for our flexible transit pilot project. So that's not part of the Moving Forward project, but it's very much built into it. So the idea is that, just quick overview, we'll have about 20 stops scattered throughout the West Hills. And the idea is to give everyone about a 5-minute walk or quarter-mile access to transit. That'll both be in the areas that are currently served by the 22 and 23, but also moving in down to Yola Drive, so trying to expand coverage in West Salem a little bit. And there'll be one cherry lift-sized bus, one shuttle bus that goes and stops at these stops. Riders will be required to make a reservation in advance. either using a website or calling in, and the bus will pick them up from their stop and bring them to Glen Creek Transit Center, where they can transfer to downtown using the 5 or the 5A, which will be the good 15-minute service. So that is the reason for the gap in that neighborhood. Then we have the new Route 6. This is it's another crosstown route offering service from Wallace Drive in West Salem, stopping in downtown. Then it passes the hospital, goes down to the Fairview Industrial Corridor, and services all of those jobs in there. The original plan was to have it come down Reed Road. We've made a slight modification for it to continue down Fairview Industrial, down to Kubler, and take that to Baxter and Barnes. And in order to make that timing work, originally we were planning on taking the bus down Madras, Sunnyside, Reese Hill, and doing a little circle on Wallen and Madras, or Wallen and Madras to get back to do a bi-directional service. Instead, we unfortunately have to do a one-way loop, which we're trying to avoid, but it still makes sure there's service available to the people down there. So this is a 60-minute route, and I should also add, if you notice, there's a little dotted line coming from West Salem High School. We have an overload bus scheduled for once school ends at the end of the day for kids to get to downtown if they need to do that. So the bus will it'll start at the high school, go to the Wallace Park and Ride, and then follow the path of the Route 6 to downtown. As I mentioned before, the new Route 7 is also doing the big Pennsylvania loop like the current 16. So everyone in that area will have effective 30-minute service as they do today. This route is also serving the hospital, so it's offset from the 6, so that you have more service down Mission. And then we're also adding coverage onto Ryan Drive, all the medical facilities there, and Hawthorne. We've gotten a number of requests for service. If you are familiar at all with the original version of this line, it was coming farther down Turner. We wanted to bring it all the way to Lakeside Village and Paradise Island. We were also talking about bringing it at least as far as Walmart. The issue was turning the bus around. So we tried to work with the neighborhoods of Lakeside Village and Paradise Island to turn the bus around their neighborhoods. We weren't able to do that. There's also some issues with turning the bus around in the Walmart parking lot. And even if we did that, there's be so much extra time left in the route that we could use to serve somewhere else that it would just have to sit there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. So the idea was to restore some of the service in this Pennsylvania loop, which has quite a bit of ridership. Just in the portion of the loop not being served by the 4A and the 11, we're talking about 100 riders a day. So giving them the service that we think that they deserve. Next, we have the new routes 8 and 8A. So this is another A route. It's taking the northern half of the current Route 6 and combining it with the southern half of the current Route 8, and then also extending a connection from the end of the current Route 8 east all the way to Commercial Street, making the connection with the Route 1. So this offers both routes 8 and 8A are 60-minute service, offset by 30 minutes. So going down 12th and 13th on Pringle, Madrona, Liberty, and Skyline, you have effective 30-minute service. Then from there, the routes split, and this is just to offer some coverage to the neighborhoods. And we've also added back in a once-a-day high school tripper like there is today on the current Route 8 that would go past Sprague High School. I should also mention that this will offer better midday service to people going to the Social Security office and the VA office on McGillcrest, because now they'll have 30-minute service throughout the midday. And also this route is the one that will be serving Amtrak and Greyhound much better than we do today. Next, we have the routes 9 and 9A. These are pretty similar to the current Route 9. The two differences are, instead of coming up all the way up Broadway onto River, the route turns onto Pine and then comes up Cherry. It's not represented in this map, so it was a recent change, but it'll deviate onto Del Webb Avenue to serve the Del Webb Transit Garage, go back onto Cherry, and then take Sam Orchid Street to River Road. The second difference is instead of having the route run every 30 minutes, the routes are each, again, every 60 minutes, offset by 30. Route 9 will do the clockwise loop as it does today. Route 9A will do a counterclockwise loop up on River, Park Meadow, and Wheatland. That's because we've gotten a lot of community feedback over the last few years asking for the loop to be reversed. This way, everyone gets the direction they want. So again, 2 60-minute routes offset by 30 minutes. The new Route 10 is the route that will be serving the Kroc Center. This route is also offering new coverage on Lansing and Hawthorne. So this will really give better access to people in this neighborhood that are west of the highway. You won't have the highway blocking access to the route anymore. And this will also be serving D Street west of 17th. The new Route 11 has 2 major changes from how it runs today. The first is that it won't be going all the way down to the Marion County Correctional Facility. This is because Route 4A will be serving that. Instead, it'll turn around on Rickey in Connecticut, which is the bottom of the current Route 16. The second big change is when heading north from Chemeketa, instead of heading up Portland and west on Shamawa, it's going to come down Portland and then take Hyacinth to Verda to Shamawa to get to the Keizer Transit Center. And the idea behind that change is that there's a lot of ridership there right now on the 15. And we think there's a lot more potential to grow ridership because of all the neighborhoods and businesses in that area, as opposed to the current path, which mostly goes through fields. And there's some neighborhoods, but not much potential for building ridership. We also have the new Route 12, which is connecting Keizer Transit Center to Chemeketa Community College as well, but its main purpose is to give coverage to the Hayesville and Jan Ray neighborhoods. And one change that's been made between our original proposal and here is that instead of going down Ward Street, this route will come down 47th to Heron and come in the back of the Chemeketa Community College. And that's partly to offer a little bit more coverage to that part of the neighborhood. It's also by coming in the back of the college, like with the Route 2, we avoid Lancaster Drive and all the traffic on that street. So Route 13, as I mentioned before, travels on a similar path as the Route 3 for about half the route. So going up Capitol, down Summer, but then also up Portland. Once it hits Solana Drive, it takes a right and then goes up Silverton, and then it serves Wyndham Place and into Chemeketa Community College. This is offering, like I said before, good 15-minute service on Capitol and Portland, and then it also offers a good 15-minute connection between Chemeketa Community College and downtown between routes 3 and 13. We also had a little bit of extra time in this route, so we're using it to serve the Civic Center and City Library on the left-hand stops. So currently the Route 1 does that. If we were to continue doing that with the route, so currently the Route 1 does the left-handed stops and Route 8 serves right-handed stops nearby. If we were to continue, since we're combining that corridor into just one 15-minute corridor, if we were to continue serving the Civic Center and City Library stops with Route 1, we'd be forced to abandon some of those Route 8 stops nearby because it takes so long to move over 3 lanes, get into the left-hand turn, and then come back. So our plan is to not directly serve this with Route 1, instead to use Route 13 to do it every 30 minutes. And because we're just going from downtown, looping around, coming back, we don't actually need to serve both sides of the stop, both stops, because we would go into one, circle around the street, and go into the other one 2 seconds later. Instead, we can consolidate everything in one stop and make it much easier for the riders to know where they get picked up, where they get dropped off. It'll be the same spot. So we think that's a big positive change for that area. And finally, Route 14 is really easy because the plan is to keep it identical to the current Route 18. So one-way loop every 30 minutes. And then routes 91 and 92 are service to Garden and Rockwest, and also our commuter routes, the 1X and the 2X, will remain identical. So the time points might change a little bit for the 91 and 92 because they're blocked with other routes, but the 1X and 2X will actually have the same times. They'll be identical. So I'm just going to turn it over to Jared to finish up, and then we can answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you, Matt. So this plan started with a thorough analysis from a consultant group. We adapted that early proposal to fit our community's needs, and with extensive feedback from across Salem-Keizer, members of the community, members of the board, and staff, we've developed a proposed solution which has dramatically improved transit service in our area. Should the board approve this proposal, work will continue on the Moving Forward project tomorrow. Tonight's vote is important because it cements this plan and allows completion of marketing and outreach plans, stop placement work, and other public notice processes for eventual implementation in September. So thank you for walking through this proposal with us this evening. It's been an incredible planning project, and I believe that the Moving Forward project, Phase 1, is a great step towards providing the transit service that our community deserves and needs. At this time, the entire planning staff is ready and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Should we take public comment first?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. We'll go into the public comment right now, and then we'll come back and we'll continue this. So first person on the list is Liz Collins.
My name is Liz Collins. I live out at Battle Creek Commons, and I want to thank you all for all this hard work that you put into improving the bus service. And we are very grateful that you have included the South Salem Senior Center and the area in which we live, where a lot of retired people live, and we really do need the bus service. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, next is Dakota Saunders.
Mr. President, members of the board, good evening. I have to say I was very impressed with the way that Mr. Chalk here presented his report. Gentlemen, very detailed. Thank you. I would just like to say it is a good step in the right direction. It is. Keep the momentum going. The people have waited for change. And I think the people agree with you with the way that you're proceeding. Just keep it up. You've got everyone supporting you behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dakota. Next is Dina Turner. I bet you're Adam Stevens School.
I am from Adam Stevens
That must
School.
be the Bulldogs.
We're the Bulldogs.
All
yes.
right.
And there's another middle schooler in the room. Yes. So I'm here just to talk about some concerns about the proposed changes on Route 15, which services the people at who attend Adam Stevens Middle School, and it's really just because of the time change and our opening times of the school day and our after-school programs. So many of our parents rely on the bus system just to make it to meetings at the school, so the time change is going to affect them coming from work and trying to get to meetings at certain times. Stevens opens their school doors at 7 a.m., and now the choices with the new schedule will be that students will be dropped off either at 6:33 or 7:33. 6:33 means they're outside for a half hour in the dark in the winter, and 7:33 means they don't have time to eat breakfast nor get to class on time. We also have music programs for 5th graders, and there's a few that ride the bus, and they also will be locked out of the school for half an hour. We serve a population that's about 82% free and reduced meals, and so the breakfast time is very important to our students. So missing breakfast in order to run to class from the bus is going to adversely affect their day. Also, after-school programs. We have kids staying for an hour to 2 hours after the school time, and if they go to catch the bus right now, they're out there no longer than 15 to 20 minutes out in the neighborhood waiting for a bus. These are 11 to 14-year-olds. They are unsupervised, and with a new schedule, they could be out there 50 minutes unsupervised to an hour. And so we would just appreciate your consideration of these concerns that we have.
Well, thank you. And we've looked at that already because you submitted some information to us, and I think Jared has an answer for that.
Yeah, actually, Chris can field that.
Chris.
Yes, we've looked at the schedule, and we believe that we can modify the schedule so that its departure time is closer to the 7 o'clock arrival, 7:03 arrival at that stop in the morning, and in the afternoon closer to the time that it currently goes through, so there won't be that wait time. As far as frequency, won't be addressed, but the time that it's coming by the school will closely match the release time and the start time better. So
Thank you.
we're planning on implementing that with the change.
Okay, thank you very much.
See how easy that was?
That was the fastest I've ever had any change.
It's not always that easy. Daryl Patterson. I guess it's Patterson. I can't read the last name.
Well, thank you for letting me speak my piece. It may not look like it, but I have a very severe disability. Physically, I look fine, but up here in my head, my vestibular system is off the charts. It's like you've got a gyroscope in your head that's ready to fall over, like when you spin a top. That's how my whole world looks like. Right now, you guys are going like this. I depend on the bus. I don't think I qualify for the cherry lift, unless you want to give me a free lifetime pass. But D Street's being eliminated. And I moved to D Street last November specifically because it was right next door to a bus stop. I don't drive. I have nobody to cart me around. I depend on the bus. I shop almost every day. I go to Fred Meyer. I usually walk up there. It's a good little walk, about 8 cents a mile. But coming back is a different story. When I'm carrying a load in my hand, it's like because of my mind is screwed up, it makes me want to walk in a circle. I feel like I'm going like this. So I go to Lancaster and Market, and I take the two back home. So I can't carry a load. I don't care if you had once every 2 hours, just put something down D Street. There's a lot of people in my situation, not with my condition, but I've talked to a lot of disabled people on that road, and they're really upset that the D Street's going away. I saw a little gentleman sitting at Anita and 37th today, sitting on his little push cart waiting for the bus. And I just stopped and had a chat with him and said, "Hey, do you know the D Street service is going away?" And his mouth about hit the floor. He says, "No." He says, "How am I going to get around?" It's easy to sit here up in the ivory tower and do planning and look on the map and say, "Oh, that street's very low. We can throw it away." But what you don't look at is the impact of the lives that you have doing that. Everybody's sitting here. Think of yourself or your families. If the route got taken away on your street, would you be willing to walk 6 to 8 tenths of a mile away to catch the bus? Especially in a condition like I'm in? I just want you to think about it before you put this through for a vote, because I don't think it was very sound planning myself. And one other thing, like on the one route, you're talking about 15 minutes is good. But right now, look at Lancaster. You got 15-minute bus service. And sometimes the buses are chasing each other. The front bus is stopping and pick everybody up, so there's nobody for the second bus to pick up. They're tailing each other. And you're talking about a 3-minute pit stop at the center here. When do the drivers get time to go to the restroom? I know a lot of drivers here. And a lot of them currently, they work 5 hours without a break. I know you say 13% of the time is sitting here in the out here idling, but I don't see it. The drivers don't see it. I don't know if drivers have had any input on this. And also the weekends coming up, I've heard they're not going to get 2 days off in a row. That's totally unfair. Because right now, even with 2 days off, drivers don't have time to recuperate. Sometimes they work a split shift. They get off late at night. They have to go back early the next, Monday. They don't get a full weekend. They don't have time to recharge. So please think about that when the weekends come up and give your drivers 2 days off. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response from anybody? No. Okay, and Randy is the last one that's on the list. To what do we owe the honor? You never speak to us.
I'm Randy Morgan. Thank you very much. I wanted to express my thankfulness and appreciation for all the staff work that went into this. There's certainly a lot of talk into the microphone better for you.
Thank you.
It's very interesting to watch this process go along with moving forward. And while I have a few grumpy things I won't say, I still want to express my thankfulness for the work that's made a lot of progress towards making better bus service. Got a few wrinkles and problems that I wanted to highlight. I want to echo my point of view that you ought to preserve some service once an hour on D Street. Daryl Patterson's concerns I agree with, but you are making some forwards. You got to make some changes. I think you should be able to modify your proposal a little bit and preserve some service on D Street with Route 2. Route 2 has been on that street for a very long time, and I'm not biased towards moving forward all the way around, and I think that people should be able to have at least the convenience and the coverage that once-an-hour service will provide on D Street. I think that Salem Hospital is a site in the district that is underserved. They should be having every 15-minute service on winter. Even though the ridership is kind of low, it only takes 10 minutes to walk for those who can to go from the Salem Hospital to the transit center, and not too many people are going to wait 20, 30 minutes for a bus, and it's once an hour in the off-peak. Bus service on Winter Street got worse for Salem Hospital in recent years, and I didn't like that, but that's what happened. So I appeal for you to restore better service to Winter Street at Salem Hospital. Hopefully, it looks like it's going to be every 30 minutes. At least that's being restored, thank goodness. But it ought to be every 15. I remember the day when they had two routes there, the old Route 21 and Route 6, and they were alternating and providing good coverage, even though the ridership was a little bit low. Salem Hospital is one big institution that deserves a lot of good service. And if you provide good service, people are more likely to use it. The proposed Route 13 is really nice. I prefer to see it preserve the current route structure, but I can't talk as long as I'd like to. I think the Route 13 should be modified to run on Cooley and Fisher and not Lancaster going into and out of the college. There is plenty of coverage on Lancaster with Route 11. So some neighborhood convenience and coverage on Cooley and Fisher ought to be considered. There's Adam Steffen's school time point. I think that reducing to once an hour is unfortunate for that neighborhood. They should have at least every 30-minute service at the peak travel times, especially for folks around Adam Steffen's school. And then it can be once an hour in the off-peak when the students aren't using service, and probably lesser service in the evening when there's even lesser need for that service along Hayesville from what is now the 15 is going to be a different route number in the future. I don't know what Title VI research is. I'm not fully briefed. There's so many details here. I just cannot talk about everything in 3 minutes or less. I realize there's another public comment section coming up, but I'm not going to. This is my comments are here. I hope that I want to also ask if you might be so nice and so kind to allow more people to make more comments in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I can. Is that like 2.5 minutes? So I don't want to end my speech without saying I appeal for the board to be kind to the other folks that want to make more comments. The proposals presented tonight are more final than what was discussed last fall. Okay, the PR program's been great, but the more nitty-gritty things are finalized tonight. So please modify your proposal and allow more public comments, at least written submissions, for another 2 to 3 weeks. I could go on for another half an hour, but I won't.
Okay, maybe Sue Ann can talk to Mr. Patterson before he leaves. And questions? Steve has a question.
Yeah, Randy, I just want to know why you're not on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and because of your extensive travels and interest, I think you should consider that when there's a vacancy.
That's not on the agenda tonight. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anyone else have a question for, or do any of the staff want to respond to anything that he mentioned?
Did you guys care to address anything? Did you guys care to address anything?
No. Thank you, Randy. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that didn't get on the list that would like to speak? Yes, please, come up to the microphone and give us your name and address.
We don't do addresses anymore, right?
If it's not on the list. It's not signed on the list.
Good afternoon. My name is Agatha Brown, and I live on D Street, and I take the 2. And I called, and somebody told me that I might have to walk over to Center I appreciate the exercise, but I like to choose when I do get my exercise, and I don't want to do that at 6 o'clock in the morning when it's raining or cold. Also, along that route are people who work at Garton who take that bus. And there's a group home right there at 37th and D where I take the bus. And there's a lady there, and I only know about this because she's been so worried about missing her connection when she comes downtown to get on the shuttle to go to work. So I think that's something you should consider. And also, children who go to school at Parish and North, there's a ton of kids who take that bus. So they're gonna go all the way over to Center and come back then? Is that the new plan? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. I don't know a lot about these things, but that bus that comes at 7 o'clock is standing room only because of the children on it. And oh, by the way, guys, you send the shortest bus at that time. So they're jammed in there like sardines, so that's something you need to think of. That's my thing. I don't think I need 3 minutes. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we will close the public hearing and go into deliberation. So, let's see, do we want a motion first?
I move that the board adopt the the service changes as identified in the moving forward Phase 1 proposal to start on September 8, 2015, as shown in Attachment A.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Now is the time for discussion. Kate.
Minor more comments. First of all, I truly want to apologize to anyone who's going to lose out in this situation. And I guarantee you that any of you, including Mr. Patterson, that staff will talk to you to see if there's any options in the community otherwise that you qualify for Cherry Lift bus passes or Red Line or anything other services. Not that we can guarantee you'll get them, but at least I promise you staff will follow through with answering that, and they're good about meeting with you. So the other thing that I see here is that I do honestly believe that this is happening for the greatest good of those using our services. And I want to thank staff because I'm very impressed with the amount of time and thought that went into all the routes, driving the routes, does the bus fit? And as you can see tonight, there was a quick turnaround with the comments from the school, and I think it was a really effective team. So I'm impressed with that, and I thank them. So I believe that a higher number of people will be served than the number of people losing out. Luckily, there are going to be some people who can choose to use Cherry Lift or maybe some other options for service. And we remember that everyone in the community that's paying their property taxes is paying for this, but not everybody uses this service. So I just wanted to say sincerely, I'm sorry to everyone who's losing out. But I do feel that this is for the greater good of everyone using the service.
Okay, well, this also can be a time to ask staff about various things. So, yeah, Steve?
Yeah, I have a question directed towards the Route 5 and 5A. I had more than one person from West Salem talk about, and we had some notes from folks about what happens when the bridge is slowed during rush hour and we end up with 3 buses stacked up in West Salem and then they're not serving the east side because they're stuck in West Salem. Have we considered what's going to happen during those times?
During the peak periods, there is added time into the routes. Basically, additional bus was added in there to address traffic. There always is going to be the extreme traffic. We deal with that on routes. Operations deals with that day to day, and having to make adjustments on the road to deal with extreme conditions with traffic. So I think that it'll be we addressed it with timing on the route for peak periods, but also day to day, there are going to be times where adjustments will have to be made on the fly to address issues like the bridge.
Okay. We are making accommodations for a couple school situations. Is there, I mean, we can't plan perfectly until we run this. So is there flexibility in this system to, let's say, we get a call from Parrish saying their kids aren't getting to school because D Street isn't served anymore. Do we have flexibility to run I know we can't provide best service for students, but do we have some flexibility in the system to accommodate overloads in the system?
Director Evans, we don't have, as far as like revenue hours and the service as it stands, we don't really have a lot of flexibility once it's designed and implemented. But you know, the reason that we talk about performance of routes and that we continue to solicit and receive public feedback is because we do change routes over time. And so if it turns out that there's a community need for a change to occur in the timing of a stop or something like we talked about this evening, those are certainly the kind of changes that we can address pretty quickly moving forward. Mm-hmm. Bigger picture changes require more significant staff resources and at a certain level board approval actually for us to do significant changes. But those things can be entertained. It's just not. It's not like a light switch kind of entertainment.
Yeah, the example is in West Salem, you studied and realized that Glen Creek wasn't getting any service, and so we added that loop. I know it took 8 months or in time, but it was. What I'm saying is you have in the past addressed needs that were not being met, that we were made aware of, correct?
I think I understand what you're saying, Director Evans, that this is not the Ron Popeil of transit services where you set it and forget it. Yeah. We do come back and make adjustments. As we'll see later in the evening for the performance report, we made adjustments to Route 11 a year ago, because of some right. changes that needed to be made in there, and we will continue to monitor and adjust and include the board in those processes going forward.
Yeah, and I wanted to just ask you to clarify. No bus driver is going to have to do 7 days. We're going to hire more bus drivers for this program, right?
Director Evans, the issue today is moving forward phase 1, so I can't really comment on the what a 7-day scenario might look like.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry I brought that up.
Other questions? John, get your microphone.
Two items. One is very similar to what Director Evans just brought up, and that is that this second public comment period has been pretty compressed, just a month. And even during that time, it's proved in some areas to be a moving target. So what I'm looking for is reassurance that in the time between now and implementation in September, that there is still some tweak and wiggle room. Is that correct? On within a particular route to be able to adjust timings and things like that.
Director Hamill, I particularly like the tweak and wiggle scenario. I think that pretty accurately describes the type of planning changes that we expect, and we do expect changes. Okay. The proposal that is in front of you includes time points and very specific and very detailed information. It is likely that details will change as we move towards implementation. Right. Stop might need to move a little bit. Time point might need to be adjusted. We are hopeful that no alignment changes are needed, because as soon as we start making more substantial changes, it's a little bit like a ripple effect. And what you do on Route 1 affects what happens on Route 2. So, and eventually you get to a point where additional board action is required. So, tweak and wiggle, I think, is probably pretty accurate, and we will be modifying the service to make sure that the shoe fits perfectly.
Okay, right, because I am in complete accord, I think, with the rest of the board. It's time to move forward and moving forward. It's holds a lot of potential and prospect for the community as a whole. My second question is, towards the end of Appendix A, we see the overlapping projects. And while that's not strictly moving forward, I'll just stick in there the real-time bus tracking that you mentioned, or that's mentioned as an adjunct project. If we could extend that to our paratransit, that would be a real boon to those folks as well.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Marcia.
I too have had concerns, and I think I voiced them when I first saw the original route on the number 2, and I've had people express concerns. I'm hoping that as we move forward and as the time gets closer to doing this implementation, that we will provide on the buses take ones and information, maybe even, some of the reader cards in that talk about some of the services, like the red line for people who are seniors who are needing shopping service, especially like around in some of that concentrated area on the D Street, so that there are some other options that we're offering that might at least address some of those things. As I was reading through all of the comments, overwhelmingly, people want more and additional service. And it's not that the Transit District Board does not want to provide it, it is that we need the funding to do it. And transportation funding, transit funding especially, is really, really complicated. You can get money to buy buses sometimes. Sometimes it's a real stretch to buy the buses. You can get money for capital improvements, but we don't get as much money for operating. And so sometimes we have to make investments in capital improvements when the money funding is there in order to, down the stretch, have the ability to do the operating. And it gets real complicated, but the more that we remind people of that, the more that they may be able to grasp the thought that we have all of these little pots and sometimes we don't have flexibility on how we spend it. So as we've been discussing and opened the Keizer Transit Station, and we opened, and we're talking about the South Salem Transit Station, we had to make the difficult decision because our operating money was going to have us not running out of money and having no service at all to cut the weekend service. And now we're finally in a place where we're going to be working toward trying to get weekend service and holiday service, but it will take everyone in town, in the area, pulling together in order to do that. But it's not that we have avoided that information. It's just that we haven't been to a point where we thought we could even go to the community and ask because of the time frames that we've been living in with the recession. So we have not disregarded your wish for Saturday and Sunday service. It's that we needed to be able to have a firm plan to go forward and a time frame when we think the time is right to go to the community and say, we can offer you something more in the way of service hours, but we're going to have to ask the community or parts of the community for that help. So I think that basically we're doing better. I'm real concerned about where we've taken service off, as some of the comments are, and I'm especially concerned about the close-in neighborhoods like D Street, where there have been really heavy ridership rides. I used to ride it myself, so I know how hard it was to get a seat on the number 2. So as we progress, everything's not locked in stone, but we all need to work together. And I really do want to commend the planning staff for all of the meticulous time they took to read every single comment that came in and try to address it as much as possible.
Anybody else? Kate.
I have a final question. We did receive an email questioning the logic behind removing the bus stop at the Ross on Portland Road. That's almost to Keizer, in the 4700 block on Portland Road, or 4600. Yeah, we're getting some nods. So the logic behind that?
Director Tarter?
Can you hear me now? There. Director Tarter, yes, I believe the comment was regarding the new Route 12, which will serve the Hayesville and Jan Ray neighborhoods. The request, or the comment was that many people in those neighborhoods shop at Ross and would benefit by having the bus stop there at Hayesville at Ross. And as I understand it, and Chris can help me here, but the route right now we would need to eliminate some service, for instance, on Happy Street, and there is some good ridership that we have there on Happy. We really don't have good data that shows what the ridership is for that stop from the Route 15, or do we? Go ahead.
Yes, the stops for that the 15 currently serves for the Hayesville stop or for the Roths. Coming from Keizer, it has an average of 3 ons and 4 offs a day, and in the opposite direction, it has an average of 3 ons and 3 offs. So it's a fairly low number of passengers that are going from that neighborhood to that stop. So that's the number. So I think that with the 11 and the 3 both going past that Hayesville store, it's possible for people to get there. Not a direct route, but it doesn't look like it's a huge pattern. The Route 15, most of its ridership starts at Keizer Transit Center and ends at Chemeketa, so most of it is people going through, and there are people that are getting off and on in between, but a lot of it is focused on those 2 endpoints, Keizer Transit Center and Chemeketa, and that number has been dropping with the 11 making that connection now.
So thank you. Like I said before, I think that your decisions are based on numbers and a lot of facts that you put into there. And I just wanted it on the record because the email was sent in that was addressed and looked at.
John?
On that particular Route 12, it's Route 15 is the one I would use. Route 12 is the route I would use. We can talk more at some other and more convenient forum than this on that regarding wiggling and tweaking.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Are we ready for a vote, or do we want to talk some more? This has only been going on for how many months? Not quite a year. June. Since June, okay. I don't know how many times we've been over the same things here, but they are tweaked every time. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a vote, and I'm going to say something and Alan wants to say something. So all those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And I just want to thank you guys. I tell you, this staff has done yeoman service in putting together this plan. And I don't agree with everything you did either, but that's me. What you've done is very easily documented in the numbers and all the things that have been happening since then, and all the input that we've had. I don't know how many hours of community meetings and things we've had over the last several months. And I know we just did 10 4-hour segments of outreach all over town here in the last 2 weeks. And Roxanne is nodding her head back there. She's served a lot of them. And so we've given everybody the opportunity as best that we can to let them talk. However, now we're going to start a new series of outreach to explain the plan as it is and go forward with that. With that, Alan has something to say.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to add a few comments. First, thanking Jared, and you have the planning staff here who are really the point people of this, but there's the entire moving forward committee. You talk about Roxanne and there's others that have their fingerprints all over this, and I would agree. If we looked back a little over a year ago and thought what we're about to embark on, it was a challenge, and I think Jared said it well. It started with a consultant's plan based on an assessment, and it turned into a community source service design, a community of the people who attended our outreach, the staff's input, the transit operators who provided their perspective, and the board's input on what was important to. We can't be all things to all peoples, but with the service policy of 75-25 and finding that right balance, I think the plan as it stands today is an excellent plan. And then Director Evans said it, I think pretty well. This is a plan. Now we go to implement it, and there will be some quirks that we didn't anticipate, and our job will be to react and respond to how to improve that. So just know that's coming. Yeah, they've done a phenomenal job. We've got a different kind of job now from here forward, but it's pretty exciting. So I thank the committee, and I also like to thank the board for allowing the staff the time and the opportunity to work through it, and the board's direction and input along the way, which I think made tonight's process smoother because everyone was engaged in that process all the way. So thank you, and our job now will implement this as best we can.
Thank you, and I think the staff deserves a good hand. Okay, now we'll go to regular public comment, and no one has signed up for that. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the board? It doesn't look like it. So we'll move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
I move we accept the consent calendar.
Approve.
Approve.
Approve. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, now we get into Citizen Advisory Annual Report.
Thank you. The chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee, Richard Stevenson, will present the annual report to the board.
President Thompson, members of the board, good evening. I have to say, this is an exciting time for me. I've been on the Citizens Advisory Committee since it was started up a few years ago. And the restructuring that we've gone through the first 6 months of last year has made a big difference, from debating things like what are we going to do with pavers from Courthouse Square to should we put a light up? Should we do this? Should we do that? The new committee is professionals. They care about our community, and they're dedicated. So I think that the persons who actually put this new committee together have done a great time. We've only had 3 meetings due to restructuring over the last year, but I think we've accomplished a few things. We did adopt and propose the fare changes. We also recommended the non-smoking ordinances with the electronic cigarettes. And we've talked about the fare proposals, moving forward project, the duties of both the chair and vice chair, and the new members got to meet each other with a meet and greet session. So I thought it was very good, very exciting, and I'm much happier to serve than I was when we were worried about the fate of pavers 2 years ago.
Well, thank you. See, we need to have a motion on that too.
I move the board accept the 2014 Citizens Advisory Committee Annual Report.
Second by John. Any discussion, any questions of of Richard? Yes.
I just want to say that I'm excited for the next year, and I really appreciate all your service, Richard. Rich, I'm really grateful that you were willing to step into the chair position, and thank you for your engagement and all your efforts.
And we'll put you to work more this next year, so. We didn't vote, did we? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, seek additional input on Phase 2 of Moving Forward Service Plan as proposed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So the issue before you is whether or not to seek out additional information as it relates to funding option for moving forward Phase 2. As way of background, last June, you did accept the comprehensive service analysis and made direction to develop an implementation recommendations pertaining to that analysis. Then last July, staff presented the Moving Forward project, which aligns Chariot service with the recommendations from the CSA, and it was broken into 2 phases. You just shortly before this action item approved Phase 1, so for implementation in September. But that remains now. It's time to start moving forward on Phase 2. And so Phase 2, as you recall, builds on Phase 1 by adding evening, weekend, and holiday service to the service area. But in order to do that, it's going to take additional funding. Staff has estimated that funding is $5 million per year. We know there are 2 primary funding sources available to us at the local level, a 5-year property tax operating levy or a payroll tax. The district commissioned Echo Northwest to evaluate each source to determine the respective rates in order to raise that money, and the results were either a 58-cent per $1,000 of assessed value property tax levy or a 0.21 of 1% of annual payroll tax. Regardless of the source, it would be a supplemental revenue source to the district's existing permanent tax rate of 76 cents per $1,000 of assessed value of property tax, our permanent rate. And either option would require a vote of the electorate of residents living within the UGB. The board will need to decide which revenue source to select in order to implement Phase 2. To assist the board in the decision-making process, community input is needed. We held a series of community input, community stakeholder and other sessions, as well as conducting a telephone survey. And if the board would like, I can walk us through that survey tonight. It's in your packet. At the work session earlier this month, during that discussion, the board did feel, in addition to that, more information may be needed to make an informed decision. And so the board asked me to consider additional ways to gather that input. I'm proposing to supplement the existing information we have, three items. 1, hold a series of community forums to share the moving forward Phase 2 plan and the funding options available to them. I would propose 5 forums, 1 in the north, south, east, and west, and a central Salem forum in order to gather citizen input. So this wouldn't be an invited stakeholder sessions like we have done so far. This would be open to one and all to come in, hear about the plan, hear about the funding options, and provide feedback to you in your decision-making process. I'd also propose an online survey for customer input. Not everyone will be able to attend the forums, and so to supplement that, create an opportunity for everyone to provide input. And then also identify and hold individual meetings with the top property taxpayers in the service area to gather their input on this important decision. So staff is recommending that the board direct me to seek out that additional community input as I proposed and bring a report back to the May board meeting for you to gather and receive that information.
Okay, was there any, yes, John?
I can make the motion, and we can discuss.
Use the microphone.
No. I move the board direct general manager to seek out additional community input as proposed above and provide a report to the May 28th board meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Now we can discuss it. Did we want to see the survey? Do we want to see the survey or not? Have it out in public?
Go over the highlights.
We have the findings.
It is in your packet.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll do it for the meeting.
I think this is material for a work session rather than a board meeting.
Marcia?
I'm watching the clock a little tiny bit. I believe that we have 3-hour meters or 3-hour parking spaces in the downtown. 9 o'clock at night. They don't stop at 6 anymore, if you notice. So
I have a ticket.
You already have a ticket.
I already have a ticket.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and, any more discussion on the,
you know,
motion?
the packet is online, is
yeah,
it not?
it's online,
So
yeah.
people can see it. Yeah.
Brad?
Yeah, I think that what I want to say is when the general manager comes back to us in May, then we can look at it more comprehensive.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of things we've been looking at tonight.
Yes, that's true.
So
I don't know, our packet was about 200 and some pages, I think, this time. How many?
337.
Oh, 337. I stand corrected. I know I read an awful lot. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and unless there's more discussion, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to approve the contract award of bus passenger shelter and stop amenities purchase.
Thank you. Yeah, Steve Dickey, Director of Transportation Development, has actually come up and make the next 3 reports.
Should have moved between meetings.
No, because I think they're going to do all of them together.
Good evening, President Thompson, members of the board. I thank you for this time this evening to bring these 3 requests to you. The first one this evening is a request to approve a contract for the purchase of passenger shelters. Over the last 5 years, Salem Area Mass Transit District has been successful in acquiring grant funding for the improvement of the district's bus stops. A major piece of this project is the replacement of passenger shelters and the addition of transit amenities such as benches, trash receptacles, solar-powered lighting, etc. Consideration of new shelter design has been reviewed by the Citizens Advisory Committee, the District Stops and Shelters Committee, in work sessions with the Board of Directors and with district staff. While there are many designs available with the Board of Directors, one important agreement was that the shelter needed to be a standard product, not a custom design. This was in an effort to ensure the availability of parts in the future and to keep costs as low as possible. As the project progressed forward, the procurement of passenger shelters was necessary. On November 4th, 2014, the district released a request for proposals soliciting proposals to provide transit passenger shelters. The closing date for submittals was December 23rd. The proposals were reviewed, scored on a scoring criteria that's in your packet and attachment A. And on January 26th, 2015, a selection was made. Proposals were received from 3 firms, Brasco, L&I Custom Manufacturing, and DuoGuard. All 3 proposals submitted similar shelter designs that met the criteria in the RFP. Images provided in the proposals are in attachment B. And after completion of the evaluation of the proposals, the decision was made to select Brasco as the apparent winner of the contract for new shelters and stop amenities. While all 3 firms presented products that met the specifications in the RFP and appeared to be of comparable quality, Brasco's proposal had the best pricing of the 3 proposals. Based on the evaluation, staff recommends selecting Brasco for passenger shelter and stop amenity contract for Salem Area Mass Transit District.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move the board authorize the general manager to enter into a 5-year contract with Brasco for the purchases up to 175 bus passenger shelters and stop amenities with a not-to-exceed amount of $818,000.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion? Looks like there's a lot of samples in our packet.
They're varying sizes, and I think
They have sides on them too, Marcia.
And glass.
I noticed that.
John?
I trust we'll be able to put our own paint schemes on these at some later date once we get a paint scheme.
Yes, the proposal required that the type of finish be a powder coat finish, but the color option was left at our discretion at the point of order.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Point of order, have we missed an agenda
Yes, I'm
item?
going back to it now. I thought it was going to be real sneaky.
Our legal counsel.
I was going to sneak back to it. How about the South Salem Transit Center? See, he was being nice. He wasn't embarrassing me.
The next item, I won't say the second item, the next item that we'll discuss this evening and for consideration is the South Salem Transit Center next steps. As you're aware, we've been in the process over the past several months of evaluating a site location for the South Salem Transit Center. It's been a district project priority since actually 2004 when we did our original strategic business plan. In 2008, the district conducted an initial evaluation of potential transit center sites in South Salem. In November 2008, work on the project was suspended when the district made a decision based on grant awards to focus efforts on locating, designing, and constructing the Keizer Transit Center. At the March 28, 2013 meeting, the board authorized Parsons Brinkerhoff to select a preferred site for the future facility. Work performed during the study included onboard transit customer survey, a telephone survey, and a detailed land use and transportation evaluation of sites in the South Salem area. The site selection process started with a grant of $750,000 available with a zero match required. As of December 31st, 2014, after the work had been completed to date, $266,833 remained of the grant funds. This revenue will be used to pay for preliminary designs and initial environmental critical issues report. The estimated cost for the preliminary design work is $20,000. The cost for the initial environmental critical issues report will be determined after a preferred design is selected. The costs for the rest of the steps to complete the project are contingent upon final design selection, level of National Environmental Policy Act process required, and the cost of land acquisition. Without this information, it is not possible to provide a reasonable estimate. The South Salem Transit Center's site selection phase concluded in December of 2014. The detailed evaluation of the remaining 3 sites was completed, and the conclusion identified a portion of the South Salem Walmart parking lot as the preferred site for the South Salem Transit Center. From a transit perspective, the site selected as the Walmart parking lot was evaluated as an off-street facility, an on-street facility, and as a combination of an on and off-street facility. The next phase of the project will be focused on obtaining and requiring land for the transit center. Based on recent conversations with the Walmart Regional Real Estate Manager, consideration will be given once a proposal has been reviewed from their office. In order to prepare a formal proposal, Salem Area Mass Transit District will need engineering support to develop preliminary design concepts to include in the proposal. In addition to the preliminary design concepts, an initial environmental screening evaluation needs to take place to determine the level of the National Environmental Policy Act process that will need to be conducted in order to provide full design and development of this transit center. The next steps of the project include development of the preliminary design concepts, initial environmental review assessment, negotiations with Walmart, which we do know from recent experience with Lane Transit District could take up to a year to complete. The full NEPA or National Environmental Policy Act process, Request for proposal for engineering design services, actual engineering design process, construction bid documents prepared, RFP for construction services, construction completion, and what we all hope for, opening the station for service. A timeline for the first few items is included in attachment A, and with a desire to keep the project moving in a positive action, staff recommends continuing with the next steps towards the completion of the South Salem Transit Center.
Marcia?
I move the board authorize the general manager to proceed with the next steps in the development of the South Salem Transit Center as described in attachment A, and there's sort of a flow chart with information on that we need not read.
Mm-hmm.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions, or Steve? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. Now can I go to the fifth one? Approval of the contract award for engineering and design for the Keizer Transit Center signalization intersection project. That's hard to say.
Well, this third project, we're talking about transit centers, is related to the transit center we most recently opened in Keizer. We're all familiar with the Keizer Transit Center and how successful it has been. But one of the things that we did in the process of developing that was look at a variety of elements that could have been included in the original design. When the area where Keizer Transit Center is located, known as Area B, was developed, and the city of Keizer developed a master plan for that area, there was an element which was a signalized intersection that was included in that plan. And the signalized intersection was at the entrance to the Keizer Transit Center, would have an opposite driveway, would go into the rest of the portion of Area B, which is on the west side of Keizer Station Boulevard, located between Keizer Station Boulevard and McLeod Lane. The plan at the time was to construct that until we received our first estimates on the construction costs associated with the full development of the Keizer Transit Center. Our first initial estimates that came during preliminary design exceeded our available grant funding, and some decisions had to be made. In that process, it was estimated that the cost of developing that intersection would be somewhere between $1.1 and $1.3 million. This cost is not just putting in signal poles, as you might see at a typical intersection. It is actually constructing drive entrances on the opposite side, and to accommodate traffic flow and traffic changes because of having traffic coming in at that point. There was some additional extension of right turn lanes at the adjacent intersection at Shamawa Road and Lock Haven that also had to take place, as well as some traffic treatments along Keizer Station Boulevard. So the cost may seem high, but it is more than just adding signals at a particular location. When we looked at that, we made a decision at that point. We talked with operations and made a determination that while it wasn't our preferred way to operate, we could operate with a right-in and right-out arrangement with the Keizer Transit Center. Upon completion of the project, though, we actually were able to come in under budget from the grant fundings that we had available. And we went back and looked at our original project list and determined that while we've been able to function with the right-in, right-out, it really would be advantageous from an operational standpoint to have a signal at that location. Right now, every bus trip that leaves Keizer Transit Center spends about 3 to 5 minutes navigating through the traffic routing that you currently have to travel in order to get out of Keizer Station shopping, the commercial zone, to get back onto the main thoroughfares. That may not sound like a lot, but in a transit route, 3 to 5 minutes is a lot of extra service, as we heard comments earlier tonight about the complexity of our services. 3 to 5 minutes makes a difference of whether we can sometimes serve an area or not. So gaining 3 to 5 minutes and then multiplying that over the multiple times we go in and out of that location actually is a lot of service that we could gain with adding this. So on September 30th, we released a proposal. We made a decision to proceed with having design services brought in to design the intersection. A request was released. The closing date was October 30th of this year. We received proposals from two firms, from Kittleson and Associates with Parsons Brinkerhoff as a civil engineering subcontractor, and from Century West Engineering with DKS and Associates as the traffic engineer subcontractor. Both submittals, I have to say, were highly qualified to perform the work required. And in fact, in checking references, both were well referenced. December 12th of 2014, the selection was made. The final decision, though, was based on project environment familiarity and the time and cost savings associated with not having to become familiar with existing conditions. And this is related to Kittleson and Associates, was the traffic signal design engineer at the Keizer Station development, and was the firm used for the City of Keizer Area B Master Plan traffic analysis. Parsons Brinkerhoff was the civil engineering subcontractor for the Keizer Transit Center development. And because of that, the team that scored and ranked the projects felt that the time saved by those two firms having that level of familiarity with the environment where this project would take place would help us get a jump start and potentially have cost savings in the end. Following the qualifications-based decision, we compared the cost proposal of $325,000 to an independent cost estimate. And the information that we had received in that is that engineering and design costs should be between 20 and 30% of the overall project cost. So with that, the $325,000 fits within that $1.1 to $1.3 million total project cost range. And so based on that, the staff is recommending that the Kittleson Associates with Parsons Brinkerhoff for engineering and design services be awarded the contract for engineering design services on the signalization project at the Keizer Transit Center.
Motion?
Okay. I move the board authorize the general manager to enter into a contract with Kittleson and Associates, Inc. for engineering and design services for the consulting of a signalized intersection at the Keizer Transit Center with a not to exceed amount of $325,000. Excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Steve?
Are we getting any kind of cooperation economically from Keizer?
Yes, the City of Keizer and the Salem-Keizer Transit are in negotiation phases right now with an intergovernmental agreement for cost sharing on the construction of this project. The engineering, design, and construction would be funded through grants and district funds up front, and then the terms of the cost sharing would be over a period of time from the City of Keizer.
So we could get some of that engineering cost back?
Yes.
Okay.
And Brad, did you have something?
Yeah, so I work for DKS Associates, so I just want to recuse myself from any vote given potential or perceived conflict of interest.
Anyone else? Okay, are you ready for a motion? Or ready for a vote? Okay, all those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
And it's
And
noted
one.
that Brad recused himself,
Yeah,
since
and
we
so-
just did it by a voice vote, not a roll call vote.
That's right. Okay, next item, we have no information items. Next item is ride share report.
Performance report.
Oh, performance report.
Performance
Thank you.
report.
I'm trying to skip again.
Yeah, Jared Chalk will present that report.
Jared, I don't know why I try to skip you all the time, but
It's all right, I'm getting used to it. President Thompson and members of the board, I will work on having a very brief performance report update for you this evening. One thing, though, I'm excited to have Tim Reedy join me this evening. Tim Reedy is our database administrator and has actually for I think 2 years or so been directly involved in collecting the data on the back end, consolidating it, and helping make meaningful information, and most recently, reports. So I'll walk through this, and hopefully Tim can help field any questions along with me if you have them. So our boardings are up 3.22% this quarter over the last one. It is a minor increase, but it continues a trend that we've seen over the last several quarters of increasing ridership, which is definitely a positive change. Briefly, just like last quarter, we've tried to show the movers and shakers, the routes with the biggest changes, in this case as a percentage. These are the routes that show the largest boarding increases or decrease as a percentage. Route 7, 2, 14, and 15 were the largest changes, but really to see what impact that has, you need to delve down into a segment level. So the first segment, downtown to 20th, had 52 extra boardings, or about 25% increase along that segment. A similar percentage increase from 20th to Madrona, including Fairview Industrial Drive with 19 boardings. And then 50% of the Route 7 increase was on Madrona to 21st, mainly along Mission Street with 25 boardings. So
that per day?
Yeah, these are per day. The important note from this increase is that though Route 7 is increasing in popularity, most of that increase is on areas that we will be providing service through the Moving Forward proposal, which was a concern that we had as we were looking at that. Similarly with Route 2, actually, almost all of the increase here is from Courthouse Square to 14th, kind of in that downtown section, and areas along D Street that will be provided with service in the future as well through Moving Forward. There is some increase further down the line, but not nearly at the level that you're seeing close to the core. Route 14 is a fairly low ridership route, so even a small change here has a big percentage difference, as you can see on the bottom one. Cherry to Verta is 23 more boardings, or about 56.4% increase there, 50% increase on Alder to Hyacinth. And then the Kroc Center, 23 boardings, although the number isn't high, that 170% really speaks to the fact that the Kroc Center is an area that probably is justified with that continued service through the Moving Forward project. Route 15 had the largest decrease at Chemeketa Community College. This is not a surprise to us. We expected this kind of change to occur because this coincides with the changing travel patterns from that Route 11 extension to Keizer Transit Center. So we kind of expected that those were going to go down. Our boardings per hour, however, are up almost 6%. This is, as you recall, a measure of productivity. How many people are getting on the bus every hour? Went up from 20.8 to 22. And I'll have a little bit of information about why this occurred in just a second. Our boardings per hour by route is actually fairly consistent with where it's been in the past. Most of our routes are performing above the standards that we've set. There are some that are underperforming at this point. I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on this slide because it diminishes in relevance as the lifespan for these routes now decreases. A lot of the productivity measures we are hoping to increase with the Moving Forward project. But generally, most of our routes are performing well. Routes with the largest boardings per hour, again, that's productivity, increases and decreases, are the same: 2, 7, 14, and 15. What that means is we had a change in ridership without a change in revenue hours. So our productivity is going to go up or down. But what's interesting there is Route 11. You recall earlier in the evening, I mentioned how we had modifications to Route 11. We adjusted Route 11's revenue hours, decreasing the revenue hours in an attempt to make that route more efficient. It turns out that we overcorrected on Route 11 and had to go back and modify it again. So again, it's that tweaking and wiggling of routes. This was a period where Route 11 had decreased revenue hours, but the ridership was the same. So our productivity, it appears, was sort of artificially inflated. That also explains why our revenue hours are down by 2.4%. It's because of those modifications to Route 11, but our revenue miles are generally the same. There's a minor increase in revenue miles, actually, and that's mostly due to us just making the system that we use for tracking revenue miles more accurate. Our other services, this chart looks dramatic, but really Chairlift and Redline have decreased service only slightly. It's really within the realm that you'd expect from just typical fluctuation. Cherry Lift at less than a 2%, like a 1.5% decrease, and Redline at a 0.5, or a bit over a 0.5% decrease. So those percentages are really small. Carts is a little bit more interesting, at a 4% decrease in boardings. About half of these, this decrease occurs from the routes that don't serve Helena. For those of you that don't know, I'm from Helena, Montana, you know, and all this getting ignored, I must be getting homesick. None of the carts routes serve Helena. Much too far. Quite an IGA. So the carts routes serving Salem are the ones that have continued to not perform so well. And we also saw a fairly substantial decrease with our Woodburn route, which we think is because Woodburn has decreased their kind of complementary service down to Salem at the same time. So we're looking into that. We have a thorough carts review that we're in the process of drafting a scope of work for, which we hope to use to really address carts issues. And that concludes my attempt at a very brief performance report, but both Tim and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Marcia.
On some of the carts, could it be that people are going to an alternate, like carpooling or something, because gasoline prices have gone down substantially, and now they're starting to go back up again. But when gas prices go down for some commuters, they start driving more.
Well, Director Kelly, that could be something that's affecting it, particularly for those carts routes, which would be a much longer run. So a change in the price of a gallon of gas could have a more pronounced effect if you were driving, 50 miles to get to your employment.
So they may go right back up again.
It may do that.
They are going right back up. Any others? Thank you, Jared.
You guys let Tim off
And
way
you
too
can go back
easy
to
tonight.
Helen. No, you can't go back to Helen.
All right, thank you.
It's snowing over there. It's cold.
It's really cold.
Ride share report.
Roxanne Rolls, our rideshare coordinator, will present the report.
Okay, that way's up. Shows I don't know how to use equipment. Oh, wait, I went the wrong way. Okay. That. Good evening, President Thompson, members of the board. This is the second quarter Chariots Rideshare Program report. As I always report, Drive Less Connect. We have increased number of users. We have more users in the second quarter as we did in the previous quarter. Lots of ride match searches performed, lots of requests sent. Just so you have an idea, over the years, I thought I'd back up a little and show you from 11-12 up until our current number. We went from 752 users to 3,430 users. So this gives you an idea of the growth of the program. And as I used to do, I talked quite a bit about statistics from one year to the next. And so I thought I'd give you some information about our van pool growth. So in 2004, which is when I started here with the program, we had 5 van pools in our program. Currently, we have 28, although I was just told today we may have 29. So you can again see the van pool growth over the years. What van pools are in our program? These are specifically van pools that Chariots Rideshare and Salem-Keizer Transit use subsidy dollars to support. So you can see 11 between Portland and Salem, 5 McMinnville, Sherwood to Sheridan, that's to the FCI, the correctional facility, down the list. So the statistics for van pools for the year 2013-14, which is last year, total number of vehicle miles reduced, that's because of all those people that are sitting in one van instead of driving in separate cars. So close to 3 million miles reduced. The subsidies that we used to support those vans, we contributed $198,000 to those van pools, all of those vans you saw. Those funds come from 5307 funds that we receive, and so we actually received more money to put into the vans than we actually did put into the vans. And so that money actually then goes into capital. It goes into the general fund for capital improvements. Then how many people ride in vans? We have about 180 people per month that are riding in the vans. I'll give you a little bit about the projects we're working on, but I'll try not to belabor the moment. We just finished the Drive Less Challenge, lots of reduction in vehicle miles, lots of people getting into carpools, getting into van pools, deciding that they'd rather walk to work or ride their bikes to work. So you can see we get significant reductions when we do these kind of statewide campaigns. I know I was told that there was some interest in the Be Safe, Be Seen, because up in the Portland metro area, they did a project. We did the exact same project. It's funded by ODOT. They send us goodies, things like lights to give to skateboarders, which we do, lots and lots and lots of blinky lights, LED lights, and I brought one for each of you so that you can see what a Vislet light is. These are wonderful because they have a magnet. You can put them just about anywhere. We also gave out these little lights to bicycle riders. They have a little rubber loop, and it's got 3 different types of lights in it. So those are the things that we give out that ODOT gives to us for the Be Safe, Be Seen. We're running our Carpool Karma campaign, which is very hard to say, and we also have caramel corn that we're giving out to people coming to Carpool Karma events. But we've had radio PSAs. I did a radio spot up in Portland a number of weeks ago. Billboards, mailers. We're getting a significant amount of people that are interested in joining carpools. We have over 400 people that have signed up for this campaign just in the last 3 weeks. Other projects, I talked about Wander Walks with the PACE team. We're finishing that project up now, so hopefully by my next report I'll actually have the walking maps of downtown to show you. Of course, we're working on the strategic plan. We're also finishing this up. Strategic plan with Alta Consulting. They've pretty much put all their draft recommendations together. We should have a final report in May. It's very exciting to see the recommendations that they're making about the program, ways that we can expand our reach without having to expand our budget, but find ways to serve more people. And that is the conclusion of the report.
Questions? Yes, John. I've used the microphone.
Yeah. I have 2 questions regarding the statistics shown in the report that's submitted to the board. First off, it shows new users as 316. I've noticed the new users in these quarterly reports in the past. Do we have any way of tracking users that are lost?
I can get that data, but what happens is after 90 days, if someone's inactive, first they get an email that says, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while, what's going on? Then they'll either reactivate their account. If they go 120 days and they're dropped out of the system, then we make a phone call. Okay. Oftentimes it's because they've retired, they've left, they have a different situation.
Right. It would be good to include that figure in here because otherwise you start to wonder about the accuracy. Okay. The other item I ask about is did not work trips, 1,600. What are those?
People will actually report if they're tracking their trips every day, this is Monday through Friday or whatever their work week is, if there's a day that they don't work, but they normally would commute, we count those days, just because it's relevant to know it's not a normal occurrence for them not to work on Wednesday or whatever day it was.
Got it. Anyone else? Marcia?
How often do we interact with Salem Hospital for people to set up carpools?
How often? I know we have a yearly event that we do with Salem Health where we talk with their employees. We have an open transportation event. We also have had information about carpools and van pools in their newsletter. Okay. And we have an employee transportation coordinator on site in human resources there. So,
because I've spent a lot of time at Salem Hospital in the last 2 weeks.
I have
3
as well.
weeks. Not personally because I was sick, but a lot of the nursing staff seem to be commuting from the Portland area, and so I just think an ongoing effort with Salem Hospital might be really productive.
I'll discuss that with the contact I have. Thank you, Director Kelly.
Okay. Well, thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you.
Finance report.
Wendy Fetter, our accountant, will present the report.
Good evening, President Thompson and members of the board. And before I start, I just want to let you know, to set your minds at ease, My husband works for parking enforcement, so I text him real quick and ask, what are the likelihood that you'll get a ticket between 8:30 and 9 parked around our building? He said, 0. They go off shift at 9, and so by 8:30 they're heading home. So we're away from home for them, so you're safe. I'm here to present, as was stated, the second quarter financial report. First, let me give you a little bit of background. The board adopted the annual budget in June 2014. The budget is a financial plan for the district. Today's second quarter financial report provides information about how the district is doing so far with regards to that plan. This financial report covers the period of July 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014. First, let me talk about the general fund. If I can do this right. Nope, went the wrong way. No, I am going the right way. Excuse me, sorry about that. There we go. All right, the general fund, as you can see, is under the budget right now, and in all our appropriation categories. The slide here shows personnel services on the left and materials and services on the right. As you can see, the first column is the annual budget in red. The middle column, also in red, is where 50% of the budget is, and the right column in blue is where we are as of December 31st. One note regarding the general fund budget, as you may have noticed in your board packet, the medical cost is more than half the annual budget because the first 6 months of expenses includes 7 months worth of expenses. All right, our next slide, there we go, shows the special transportation funds. The left side of the slide displays the personnel services again, and the right side displays the materials and services. This slide reflects all the programs collectively. In your board packet, the special transportation funds are broken out by program. Is it too loud? Sorry. The special transportation funds have several items to note, primarily related to carts and TripLink call center services provided by MV Transportation. The call center costs are more than half the annual budget due to new Saturday call center operations. In the STF coordination program, materials and services exceeded half the annual budget, reflecting the one-time purchase of a vehicle by Catholic Community Services for dial-a-ride services in their community. Wrapping up special transportation funds are 2 more notes. One, due to a one-time expense associated with the creating of How to Ride video, Mobility Management Program has exceeded its materials and services budget. The overage will be covered by state funds. The other note is the DMAP and Willamette Valley CCO has exceeded half of this budget due to a 44% increase in demand since July 2014. A budget amendment will be brought to the board before the end of this fiscal year. The last slide reflects the Capital Projects Fund, which includes all the capital projects. As you can see, we are under budget. With approval of the 2 capital project contracts earlier this evening, we will begin expending these funds at a higher rate. That concludes my presentation of the second quarter financial reports. Any questions?
Anybody? Looks like you're
All
very
right,
clear.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, board subcommittee reports. First one, Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, and I'm assigned to that, and we haven't had a meeting yet. So that will be in a couple of meetings in March. Special Transportation Fund, we've had a couple meetings there, and the last meeting was Monday, and we spent about 4 hours deciding how to distribute money to various organizations that we provide STF, Special Transportation Fund money, as well as 5310 federal money. You'll see those next month. We'll be presenting it to you for approval. Commission on Transportation, MWAC.
We did not have a meeting this month in February. They used the meeting date for orientation because we
training.
have 5 or 6 new members.
Yeah. And SCAT, Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study.
We've had 2 meetings since the last board meeting, and
I saw your packet that you sent us, and I
well,
tell you,
if
that's
I have to
another
read that
500
stuff,
pages.
I'm gonna make you guys read it too. We've really been doing a lot of wordsmithing on some of our operation documents, as you can see. We also have done some adjustments to the implementation budgets for the Transportation Improvement Program. It's basically been just swapping dollars. We haven't really made any changes in the budget. It's just that the one project was changed from a federal project to a local project, and another project could then get more federal dollars, and it's just switching dollars around. We're also looking at the greenhouse gas legislation, and Salem-Keizer has not been hit with some of the requirements that Portland Metro and Lane County and Corvallis has been hit, but we're probably going to be having to deal with those measures in the future, so that'll be an issue coming up. There was not much transit stuff other than in the boilerplate of our revised documents that we're coming up with, and the material that's there right now is not the final material, since it has a lot of numbers that are placeholders until they come up with the final budgets on certain items. And the next meeting will be the 24th of March.
That's it, okay. How about your next one, the OMPOC?
OMPOC,
Oregon Metropolitan Planning Organization.
OMPOC is planning a meeting sometime in March, but they haven't set a date yet.
And nothing on river crossing.
And nothing on river crossing.
And Citizen Advisory Committee.
Yeah, we had a January meeting, kind of a change of the guard, and you heard from, basically, Richard's report was what we talked about. Anything to add to that, Alan? You talked about moving forward a little bit.
No, other than we were supposed to have a meeting yesterday.
Yes.
But since I had to testify at the Capitol, we were rescheduling it for.
Yeah.
We've already scheduled it for April 1st.
April 1st.
Ooh, April 1st, yeah.
Really?
Sure.
Lovely.
Are you joking with us? Or?
No, no.
That's not the normal.
Why don't you come and find out?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be here, maybe they won't.
Either would be smooth.
Sort of indirectly on that issue, have we found, what's the progress on finding a replacement for Sadie, who used to be the contact person, staff person for that committee?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that.
Okay.
I was
Right.
confusing.
In years past, the public relations person has been the staff for the Citizens Advisory Committee. Used to be Sadie Carney.
Yes.
Have we found a replacement for Sadie?
We have not. We're looking at the position, see how best we want to staff that. Ultimately, when that person comes on, they will take it over.
Okay.
Okay, any other reports? Anything else that you missed along the way? Okay, now, General Manager.
I don't have anything to report that's not already in my weekly report for tomorrow, so I'll save it for then.
Okay. And I've got a few things. I met regarding shelters with Britta France, and I think a lot of people have already met with Britta on the shelters also. Had 2 community stakeholder outreach meetings, and we attended the Mid-Valley Council of Governments annual meeting and received an award for the work that we in Marion County did on restoring Courthouse Square to its beauty. Chamber Forum, Chamber Policy Committee. I attended one of the outreach events that Roxanne had here down at Courthouse Square. That was interesting. They also evacuated the building at the same time I got here. I don't know, maybe it was me. Was it me that caused that? The 2 SDF meetings, like I mentioned earlier. And I guess that's about all of them. Then we spoke to the demo forum yesterday, the Marion County Democratic Forum yesterday, and presented the Moving Forward program, both phases. And John, what have you got?
Okay. Things that have already been mentioned, and since we're running late, I won't go into them again. I have had some meetings at Center 50 Plus with people who have had concerns they wanted to share about the moving forward plan, and all went satisfactorily.
Good. Steve?
Yeah, I've, well, the usual work session. I went to the demo forum, went to the West Salem Business Association meeting today with Alan, and had some constituency discussions. And then I made a contact with the West Side newspaper about possibly running an article in, it would be for April 1st, for kind of promoting or talking about the flex plan. And I'd be talking to staff about what to put in there, but that seems like enough lead time, and it goes out to 12,000 people, so it'd be a good
Absolutely.
way to promote it.
Brad?
So yeah, the one thing that I want to add is that on the 10th of February, I went to the Keizer Chamber luncheon. The focus was about health and wellness, and provided a good opportunity. They asked about, what does wellness mean to you, and had the audience give feedback. And I, of course, stood up and said, wellness for me is about making choices of how I move and my transportation choices that reflect a health perspective, including bicycle, pedestrian, transit, and put a plug in for making conscientious choices of our transportation options. And there was great feedback from that, the professionals that were there, and interest from a few of the chamber members of our services. And so anyway, it was nice to make some of those connections. And then today there was another luncheon put on again by the chamber, again about community health and the idea of a potential Healthy Keizer initiative that the chamber is considering implementing. And so I attended that, and again had good opportunity to listen to the chamber and others that were there be interested in our infrastructure and how it supports a healthy community. And so I think having Keizer Transit part of that discussion and our efforts with rideshare and Suzanne and being able to also moving forward and just incorporating all of that into that vision of a healthy community, and that what transit provides. And so just wanted to make the board aware of that.
Thanks. Marcia?
Did the work session, was able to attend demo forum, and then in my other life I did a Kiwanis book giveaway program. A lot of my time in the last 3 weeks has been spent with a good friend who had some medical issues, and so that's where I ran into the fact that there seemed to be a lot of the nursing staff that live in Portland and commute down, because once my friend she's very chatty and likes to know about people who are serving her, and so a lot of the last 21 days has been engaged with the health system.
Bob?
I had about 15 functions this month, and out of those I had 3 neighborhood groups that I attended and brought them up to date on our Moving Forward program, just as my normal announcement each month. I also gave a presentation to the South Salem Lions on the Moving Forward program. I transported eye tissue up to the eye bank as a volunteer driver, and we all attended the Council of Governments dinner that nobody mentioned, so I brought it up. And that's other things I've already reported, so that's... Oh, I also have a good contact now with the Bicycle Boulevards people. They're trying to build some corridors through Salem for use by bicycles, and I think it's a good concept.
You have to have a microphone.
Since I'm moving on and moving forward in my business, I have spent less time in transit than I'm usually able to, which is part of the reason I won't be running. But appreciate the meeting this evening.
Thank you, and I have I'll be in Washington DC on the Chamber Forum. Somebody want to go to the Chamber Forum on the 9th? Steve? Okay.
I'll go.
I need that back. Okay, is there
I'll
any,
send you info on it.
any more business coming before us? Seeing none? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
I'll send you the details. I do, but I'll be in DC.